All right, guys, welcome back to Yospill. So today we have something very different, something I don't think I've seen any videos on YouTube yet. So let's just get the garage door open and see what we got. This, well, you can't even tell what it is, but this is a 1.4 multi-air for the Fiat. So the reason why we have this motor is because we plan on doing a piston and rod setup. We plan on valve springs, big cam, and our friends over at Turbo Bay are building us a custom turbo. Specs haven't been released. Turbo hasn't been released. So you'll know when we get it. We'll explain to you what it is. But this is going to be the candidate for when we go full send on the Fiat. So let's get this thing out of the truck and out of the crate and actually see what it looks like. All right, guys, so we made it. Timing sets off, valve covers off, drain the oil, and this is the first WTF. This is the multi-air system. Yeah, so you have your two cam lobes on this side, and then you have this mechanical, electronically activated, who knows what. I'm assuming there's some mechanism in here that this pushes and opens the intake valves, because the only thing I see that this is actually pushing down on is these exhaust valves. So let's get to taking more of it apart and see what's under there. I can see the valve springs down in there under that part. So I'm just assuming that this is your intake lobe and this is your exhaust lobe. So if they make a cam for it, it'd be interesting because all they would have to do is kind of modify this. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. This one's compressed. These are out. So it's on that inside of intake valve should be open. But yeah, it's a very small motor. Me and my brother picked this thing up with little to no resistance. It's pretty funny that a 1.4 liter valve, or the ports are the size of my pinky, which is hilarious. So, but these little motors can make 300 horsepower when properly done with a good sized turbo. So back to more teardown. Well, guys, we have the multi-air system off, and those would have to be the most incredibly small valve springs I've ever seen in my life. Size comparison: finger, valve spring, covers the whole valve spring. We're gonna get these cam caps off, and those are cool. But now we're gonna get to actually pulling the head off of this thing, and we're most excited about seeing these 72 millimeter pistons. And one thing I just noticed that I wasn't really paying attention to, this is actually a cast iron block. So that is probably incredibly strong, so it could probably take a lot of boost, to be honest. I wonder if it's an open deck or a closed deck. But yeah, 72 millimeter piston, cast iron block, aluminum head, and these are actually your studs or your head bolts. They're pinky size. So this is a very interesting motor. Oh, it has some in the middle too. That's strong. All right, back to taking more stuff apart. Fiat update. Well, that wasn't the head studs. That was actually just the girdle for the top of the head that holds the whole assembly for the multi-air setup. And these are the actual head studs right here. So now we get to actually see the valve springs all the way on both sides. Let's see how strong these little things are. I can push them with my hands. So they're not incredibly strong, but this is a Fiat cylinder head. This thing is a little block. It's so tiny. Look at my arm. It's basically the size of my forearm. So now we get to pop the head studs out and we'll finally get to see these pistons. I'm actually excited about this. All right, guys, so after those incredibly tight little 12mm looking bolts, the head is off. These are a very cute little finger wide piston, and the compression looks pretty low, but the head literally has no chamber to it, so it's very, as you can tell, very light too. Looks like it was running bad on this cylinder right here. A little bit of oil in there, but valves all look flat. Nothing looks damaged or anything. So now we're gonna get to flipping this thing over. Hopefully we don't make a mess on our floor, even though I know we're going to. And I actually want to see how small these rods are. I know our Fiat's on like 20 pounds of boost, and it's going to be on a lot more when it goes back together. So I'm actually interested to see how big these little 1.4 motorcycle looking rods are. All right, guys, so I stopped the time lapse because we were having technical difficulties getting these T47, T45 bolts out of here. For some reason, somebody at Fiat or Chrysler decided to torque these things to like 200 something foot-pounds, or they put some type of anti-thread locker or something on there, and those things do not come out. So what we had to do was we actually had to physically remove the engine from the engine stand. There was one bolt right here that's a T50 holding it on. I used the hammer and the bits and the impact, and here's the first two I broke, just attempting to get that stupid oil pan off. Well, now that we got it off, we got it back on the engine stand, and you can see inside of the motor. It's not too shabby, so let's put you guys back on time lapse and get to pulling all the pistons and rods, pull the girdle, pull the rear main seal, and pull the crank if we can. All right, guys, so we have the girdle completely off over here, standing up on the side. And it's actually hard to believe that this is a stroker motor, but if you look how close that crank comes to the cylinder wall down there, this is actually a little piston, big stroke, 1.4 liter. Weirdest thing to say, I think the weirdest thing I've ever said. It is a big stroker 1.4. It's pretty funny. The bearings and everything look very Honda-like. They're kind of built like a Honda. It has very small bearing surface with pushing bearings, whereas like most standard old Mopars, all this bearing right here is one piece. It has a very small removable back shield, kind of like a Honda, but it does have Mopar style oil pump. All the old school Mopars have this press on pulley and, you know, everything like that. And I was just noticing that it's made by Millings, which is a good, you know, reputable oil pump company. So we are going to get to cleaning up all of this stuff, and we need to order some parts and maybe take this thing to the machine shop, get the head decked and everything, make sure we have nothing warped. We bought this motor used for a decent price, so, you know, we need to check over everything. We'll definitely clean it up a little bit. It's kind of dirty and you can see a little rust on it. And we're going to have to figure out a way to get this plate off. If you guys know of any way of getting these stupid torque bolts out that seem to be at 300 foot-pounds, let me know down in the comments below. But this is going to wrap it up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys are liking the Fiat content. If you've never seen a multi-air unit outside of a motor, this is exactly what it looks like. And if you have never seen the pistons and rods, which these little bad girls are Teflon coated and everything from the factory, these little rods, they're broken rods. If you guys don't know what that is, the old school rods used to be machined right there where you see that paint. And these are actually just snapped off, and that's how they get such a crazy looking, you know, line. And then they're just using, you know, nice little bolts and put them back together. But these extra large 72 millimeter pistons are pretty funny. You see the piston design is pretty much for a turbo. The rings are very low. But yeah, here's all four. None of them look bent. Everything looks good. All the bearings look fantastic. So this motor is in great condition. Now we just need to get to cleaning it up and ordering some pistons and rods. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, you guys are the best.